Behold, the sower went out to sow. Me and Bill are dressed for sowing. Bill's always dressed for sowing. I don't usually dress for sowing, but I'm dressed for sowing today. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Good to see lots of faces we don't get to see very often. A lot of college folks back home, a lot of family back home visiting. Met some new folks that have just dropped in on us this morning. We're glad that they've come our way. Just opportunity to spend a little time together. Appreciate Danny's words. We're going to look at Matthew chapter 13 this morning. Matthew chapter 13. My granddad always wore overalls. So they have another purpose, Bill. His were always striped, but he always had on a khaki shirt. So I grabbed my khaki shirt this morning. One time in my life, I saw him not wearing overalls. One time only. And I'm talking about sleepovers at their house. I'm talking about anywhere we ever went. One time we had a huge family reunion. They hired a professional photographer to come in and take family pictures. And I do not know how my grandmother got him into a suit. But he wore a suit one time. And that's the only picture that I ever have of my granddad not in his overalls. My granddad always had a .38 in this pocket. This is his bandana. I always carry his bandana when I wear his overalls. Boy, that's an old bandana, isn't it? He was murdered in 1979. 3 weeks after my 18th birthday, my granddad was murdered. He never came and heard me preach, not once. And I started preaching when I was 12, at some level, at least at a level enough for granddads to come and hear you. If anybody's going to come hear you, it ought to be your granddad. This granddad never once came and heard me preach. My Baptist granddad would come, but not this granddad. He would never come to hear me preach. But I think if he had been at Capernaum in Matthew chapter 13, I think he would have listened to Jesus. I really do. Because my granddad would take me fishing, and we would get the seine out, and we would seine for minnows, and then we'd use minnows, and we'd fish for the morning. We'd spend that time together. I don't know if he was a believer or not. Isn't that sad? To be 18 years old and not know whether your granddad was a believer in Jesus Christ. I know my grandmother was. She took my dad and aunt and uncle to church. He never once divulged anything faith. I suppose that. I didn't bring it today. I should have put it in my pocket. He gave me an old-timer pocket knife at Christmas one year. We didn't do a lot of Christmas, but he gave me a Christmas present, so maybe he was a believer. I don't know. Do you have to be a believer to give a Christmas present? I have no clue what his faith was. He never once said. But I think if Jesus had worn some overalls and gone fishing down by the sea, and my granddad happened to be there, I think he would have listened to what Jesus said. I think he'd have kept his hook in the water, but I think he'd have listened while he was fishing. That's just sort of who I think he was. He'd have paid attention. And if he could have gone to church and seen a preacher in some overalls, he might have gone to church. I never once saw him go to church. If he went, I didn't know it. He was so badly beaten when he was murdered that they didn't put him in a suit to bury him. They just had a closed casket. Family went down and saw him. I was 18, like I said, 3 weeks, but I didn't go see him. I was an adult, but I wasn't that grown up. I still don't want to be that grown up. Curious thing about Granddad, isn't it? He'd have loved this sermon. He liked farming. He liked to see things grow. He liked to watch things mature. And that's what Jesus does in Matthew chapter 13. We're going to read it quickly. Here's how it starts. That day, Jesus went out of the house and was sitting by the sea, and large crowds gathered to him. So he got into a boat and sat down, and the whole crowd was standing on the shore. Jesus just down by the sea, and people start showing up, and so many people start coming. He can't. You've ever been forced to the edge of the water? He's forced to the edge of the water. He steps in a boat and gets out for a little perspective. And he starts to talk to the people. And he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, Behold, the sower went forth to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell beside the road, and birds came and ate them up. Others fell on the rocky places where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up because they had no depth of soil. But when the sun had risen, they were scorched. Because they had no root, they withered away. Others fell among the thorns, and the thorns came up and choked them out. And others fell on the good soil and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. Marlene made me a sewing bag yesterday. They would wear a bag around their shoulder, and they'd put maybe 100 pounds of grain in that bag, and they would broadcast as they sowed their seed. It wasn't quite big enough for me, so I didn't bring the bag today. Sower goes forth to sow. I'm personally convinced Jesus is seeing a sower somewhere. Some guy in his overalls out working that day, sowing some grain in the sea, beside the sea, on the road, in the soil, getting a crop in. My granddad would have liked that part of the sermon. He said, I could listen to a guy preach about sowing seed. I can understand that. Maybe. Verse 10. The disciples came and said to him, Why do you speak to them in parables? Why are you telling them stories? They came to look around the kingdom, and as they're looking around the kingdom, Jesus tells them stories. Stories of people that are sowing the seed of the kingdom. I love thy kingdom, Lord. And he's just sowing the seed. Jesus answered them, To you it has been granted to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. The mysteries are being revealed. You guys are on the inside. You're getting it. You're understanding it. You're fathoming. But not to everybody. Always a weird place, isn't it? To them it has not been granted at the end of verse 11. For whoever has, to him more shall be given, and he will have an abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has shall be taken away from him. That's in Scripture a time or two. It always confuses me. You know, it seems like the one who doesn't have ought to be the one that gets. And he says, no, the one who's getting it gets some more. And the one who doesn't get it, even what he had, is taken away and given to someone else. It's a parable, Jesus reminds us. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because while seeing they do not see, and while hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. In their case, the prophecy of Isaiah is being fulfilled, which says, You will keep on hearing, but will not understand. You will keep on seeing, but will not perceive. For the heart of this people has become dull. With their ears they scarcely hear, and they've closed their eyes. Otherwise, they would see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and return, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly I say to you that many prophets and righteous men desired to see what you see and did not see it, and to hear what you hear and did not hear it. Now be sure and hear today that the lesson today is not understanding a parable. That's not the lesson today. We're not trying to figure out what a parable says. We're trying to figure out what the parables say. All of them together. We're trying to figure out why Jesus has told these parables, all these parables. So we had the parable of the sower. He explains that, verse 18. Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is the one on whom seed was sown beside the road. The one on whom seed was sown on the rocky places. This is the man who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy, yet he has no firm root in himself, but is only temporary. And when affliction or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he falls away. And the one on whom seed was sown among the thorns, this is the man who hears the word, and the worry of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. The one on whom seed was sown on the good soil, this is the man who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and brings forth some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. Jesus presented another parable, saying, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went away. But when the wheat sprouted and bore grain, then the tares became evident also. And the slaves of the landowner came and said to him, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have tares? And he said to them, An enemy has done this. The slave said to him, Do you want us then to go and gather them up? But he said, No, for while you are gathering up the tares, you may uproot the wheat with them. Allow both to grow together until the harvest, and in the time of the harvest I will say to the reapers, First gather up the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them up, but gather the wheat into my barn. He presented another parable to them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field. And this is smaller than all the other seeds, but when it is full grown, it is larger than the garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and nest in its branches. He spoke another parable to them. The kingdom of heaven is like leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 pecks of flour until it was all leavened. All these things Jesus spoke to the crowds in parables. He did not speak to them without a parable. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet. I will open my mouth in parables, and I will utter things hidden since the foundation of the world. Then he left the crowds and went into the house. His disciples came to him and said, Explain to us the parable of the tares in the field. He said, The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. As for the good seed, these are the sons of the kingdom. The tares are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. So, just as the tares are gathered up and burned with fire, so it shall be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send forth his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all stumbling blocks and those who commit lawlessness, and will throw them into the furnace of fire. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear. He said that before. He who has ears, listen. Pay attention. Get the message. It's one thing to hear the words. It's another thing to listen. I don't want you to just hear a story. I want you to hear the story. He who has ears, let him hear. And he tells his disciples that. 44, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in the field, which a man found and hid again. And from joy over it goes and sells all that he possesses and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking fine pearls, and upon finding one pearl of great price, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet cast into the sea and gathering fish of every kind. And when it was filled, they drew it up on the beach. They sat down and gathered the good fish into containers, but the bad they threw away. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come forth and take the wicked out from among the righteous, and will throw them into the furnace of fire. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Have you understood all these things? They said to him, yes. And Jesus said to him, therefore every scribe who has become a disciple of the kingdom of heaven is like a head of household who brings out of his treasure things new and old. What are the parables about? What do the parables say? The parables say, I want to be good soil that produces 160, 30-fold. I don't want to lose the word implanted when difficulties come. The parables say the evil one is in competition with the Son of Man, and that he is putting weeds in the world. And the parables say that not everyone in the world is healthy. Jesus says, leave them alone till the end. If you try to remove them now, you'll destroy the wheat. Don't miss what the kingdom is about. The parables say that yeast, just a little yeast, leavens the whole lump. That a little seed can become bigger than all the garden plants. My granddad was a truck farmer over in Van, Texas, Jamestown actually, just north of Van. And he ran up US 80 to the Dallas Farmers Market and sold sweet potatoes and watermelons and tomatoes, potatoes and whatever he could grow. He would have loved a sermon about seeds and produce and productivity. You see, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. There's something in your life that's more valuable than anything else, and when you find it, you'll give up everything for it. Everything. I hope it's your mate. The one thing your mate needs to know is that you'll die for them in a moment, in a heartbeat. That one thing in this world is more valuable than anything else in this world. But I hope your mate knows that God is more important to you than they are. If they know that God is the most important thing, that you'll sell out everything, even them, to have a relationship with God. Wait a minute, you mean sell out your mate so you can have a relationship with God? They have to know that God is prominent. He is the one. He is number one. If they know that, everything will work. Oh, that fine pearl. There's something more important than anything else, and I'll give up everything I have to go and buy it. It seems like that would be a shrewd thing, right? That would be a shrewd thing. My granddad was a horse trader. You know what that means. He was a bootlegger, but he never offered me a drink. He never came to hear me preach. I don't know what to do with my granddad. He's not an easy fellow to deal with. It's difficult, isn't it? I don't think he ever understood how valuable the kingdom was. His lifestyle demonstrated that it probably wasn't the most important thing in his life. It may have been that his perception of Jesus was skewed by how we presented him, and how he thought he had to put a tie on to go to church, and how the preacher couldn't relate to him because they didn't have anything in common. And Jesus takes all of those things out of the way in the parables. He would have understood the dragnet that's thrown into the sea, and he knew how to throw away bad fish and how to keep good fish. And Jesus had all of that. The chapter closes without a parable. When Jesus had finished these parables, verse 53, this is the passage that Justin read to us earlier. He came to his hometown and began teaching them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, "Where did this man get this wisdom and these miraculous works? Is not this the carpenter's son?" And wasn't this guy a teenager around here? You ever try to be an elder where you were a teenager? We got a lot of them here. It's not real easy to be an elder where you were a teenager. Most people have to move to become elders somewhere else. It's one of those things, right? Hey, this is that carpenter's son. We know this guy, he's got a hammer. I should have gotten one. I meant to put one in my loop today. This guy's the carpenter's son. Oldest born of Joseph. Not really Joseph's son, we know that. Didn't Mary his mom? And didn't his brothers come to synagogue school with him? And aren't all his sisters still around here? Who does this guy think he is? I mean, he grew up here with us. And he tells stories. Common little parable stories that change the world. Where did this man get all these things? Verse 57, and they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household. He did not do many miracles there because of their unbelief. You see, Jesus doesn't need people to understand the parables yet. He doesn't need his family to buy into his messianic position yet. They're going to come around. They're going to get there. And they're going to be part of that faith community after Pentecost, but he doesn't need them there now. If they're too close now, they might be killed with him. If they understand too much now, they might not murder him. They might not kill him. He needs the parables to be spoken, but not quite perceived just yet. And so he doesn't preach too plainly, but he preaches with a point. Looking around the kingdom, this is the place that is worth everything you've got. This is the place to invest. This is the place to sell out and live. Be the good wheat so you won't be thrown into the fire. Be the productive soil so you'll produce what the king is talking about. Be that treasure that God is longing for. Perceive that and find that. You ever wonder why it ends the way it does? It's just another illustration. Here's your take home this morning. The wise guys weren't really in Nazareth. What does Jesus invite us to look around the kingdom and see? We find the potential to accept or reject. I can say Jesus is Lord, or I can reject Jesus. Jesus is of the devil. It gives me potential. The wise one accepts the kingdom. That's really what the chapter's about, and that's why Nazareth is pointed at the end of that. They're not wise enough yet to receive the kingdom. They're going to get there, but it's going to take a little time. You guys might get there. It may take a little longer for some of you. Have you looked around the kingdom and decided this is worth more than anything else? Worth more than my health? Worth more than my finances, worth more than my relationships. This is worth more than anything else. The kingdom that belongs to God. I love thy kingdom, Lord, the place of thine abode. And then we leave you with this question. Byron's about to lay on you. And ask whether you will seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Or are you going to keep doing your own thing and hoping that everything works out in the end? Don't be a weed. Weeds get burned. Be a faith person that says, I love thy kingdom above all. Together we stand and sing.